All right. By the way, thank you for putting all this together. Give this man, the myth, the legend, give him a big round. Woo! All right, let's start out with this, and we'll just go to whoever has. We'll throw mics around. So to all of you, you guys can start however you want. How can a busy real estate agent who is not super techy use AI in their business today? So I think from you, like, what would be day one, what's the one or two things they could go use, this afternoon to just start? Like, what's the first one, two, just start places?
You want to take it first?
Sure. Yeah. There's only a few people in this room that hadn't really just started, but if you haven't just started, I would think about it two ways. You can either start like in the business, or you can just start like I have this stuff in my refrigerator, ChatGPT or Who's what should I make for dinner tonight? Just start like processing. Just like think of this as just cognitive labor, just willing and able to help you figure stuff out. So just start asking to help figure stuff out. Like especially in a safe, like one of the reasons why I made Who's is because it's a safe environment. Your information doesn't go anywhere. Your data doesn't go anywhere. Your documents don't. It all stays right there safely for you, right? That's one of the first reasons why I built this thing. So if you go to a place like that, just see how it processes and get started with that. And then second of all, I would worry less about prompting and more about asking the goal. Like tell Who's or tell ChatGPT, here's the goal of what I want to achieve. How would I best achieve that? And let AI kind of guide you through instead of you thinking you can wrangle this thing and tell it exactly perfectly what to do. Say, here's the goal, here's the outcome I'd like. What are the steps I would take to achieve that? And then follow those steps. That's how I'd start.
I want to jump in, not even real estate related, but the other day, I find new ways to use ChatGPT all the time. I was struggling with some stuff, honestly, just like anxiety in my personal life, and I'm Christian, and so I asked AI, hey, can you give me 10 passages that would help me work through this? And how powerful is that? Because we know the Bible's not meant to be read front to back, but I had a problem, and it gave me some places to start and to go explore further. So there's so many ways to use this, and I just want to chime in and say that. It's not all about business.
I think if it helps you in your personal life, it helps you in your business life too. So I think ideation is probably the easiest way to get in there. Just start asking ChatGPT, hey, I'm running out of ideas how to reach my target audience. It's going to give you 10 different ways that you could start taking action right now. And if it gives you 10 ways, we can take those 10 things. Should I switch to the handheld?
Do we have any more of these?
But if it gives you 10 ideas, take that first idea and say, can you elaborate more on idea number 3? And it's going to take it a deeper level. So, but learning how to use the product effectively and figuring out a way to fit it in your business, if you haven't done it yet, is probably, I would say, instrumental first. Yeah. Anything to add?
I'm not a real estate agent, so I have no idea.
All right, so I'll just talk loud for this one. For you, what would be, and I'd love to hear from all 4 of you, what's one thing you would do to generate business using AI, right? So hey, you got next week, what's one thing you would use AI to help you do to generate actual maybe buyers or sellers in the next several days?
Okay, I'll go while we're passing mics around. There's a lot of tools. Let's think about it this way. How big of a budget can you really have for social media? How much do you really want to spend? So whenever I start a business, I start the business specifically with a $0 marketing budget because I figure if I'm not developing a product or service that's worth my customers posting about, I'm kind of missing the whole point. So my point is, instead of using AI just to write your social media, you could also talk about how do I create an experience that's worthy of my customers posting about me. Because the business is not about how many people can you get into your sphere and how many people can you collect in your database. It's really about how many databases are you in. How many people are talking about you? How many people are posting about you? How many people are passing on your name to their realtor? So that's how I would sit down and first look about how do I just think about questions of how do I become worthy, or my product or service or my persona, to use that term, worthy about being posted about. I would start with that instead of write this social media post for me, because how many people are actually going to read it? Versus digging a little bit deeper and saying, all right, how am I now postable? How do I worth being posted about? That's what I'd think about it.
Personal, intentional. Yep. 100%. Well, you have to solve a problem. Last time I checked, you guys were problem solvers, right? You solved the problem of somebody wanting to buy, they want to buy a house, you solved that problem. How do you help them solve that problem? What are their drawbacks? What are their setbacks? What are their objections? What are the hurdles that they need to overcome? Put those hurdles into AI and say, I have a buyer for this property, and here's one of their objections. They're on the fence because interest rates are too high. What are some ways that I can word this to get them off of the fence so that, make them understand that right now would probably be a better time to buy than 6 months? Like and you can do that.
I'm not an AI expert, but I just, I see stuff every day. And one that I saw literally last night, and I sent to Larry feedback. It's called HeyGen, and it blew my mind. And stuff's coming out every single day. But what HeyGen does is you put your video in, and it's legit, guys. Like it will take your video and audio, will take your actual tone of voice, what you sound like. It clones your voice, and then it will transcribe it. You pick the language you want the output of your video to be. So if you're a team leader and you don't speak Spanish, but maybe you have someone on your team who does, you can make a video talking to a Spanish audience, and it will literally adjust your lips, and it'll come across like you know Spanish. It's pretty wild. So that's called HeyGen. That's one we saw literally last night.
We're actually developing that for a hospital right now. It just had almost ready to hit a contract with a hospital right now because at patient advocacy, I was talking about my experience earlier.
Yeah.
So I started reaching out to hospitals right away. How can we help right away? And that's one. Access to information is a big one. So we're actually developing that right now for a hospital where any education level, any language that you speak, get access to the information and can give you medical terms in a way that you could understand it. Right? It's such a great use case, and so that's a great one.
I saw hearing aids that were being developed where you put the hearing aid in, it listens to the tone, and then translates it in real time into your earpiece now. So
I think we need to have politic debates, like take a left or a right person, and you can like interpret back and forth, and you can maybe have an actual conversation. That'd be wonderful these days.
Here's what they meant to say.
I don't think that's
like
possible.
the anger
AI's not
translators,
that smart.
right?
That would be a modern miracle.
Yeah, what would you tell an agent to do tomorrow to use this to generate business?
It's an interesting question for me because I'm the mortgage guy, as you guys know, and I'm kind of new to the marketing. This is kind of moving the microphone around. This is kind of our first foray into marketing, and I depend heavily on Dayton and Larry and the team to do all the marketing. So I'm not.
So let me ask you a different question, maybe.
Sure.
What do you see as the disconnect between the agents and their clients right now? Like, what do you think the disconnect is there? And maybe we can figure out how AI can help them with that. But what do you think is the disconnect? Is it the ability to communicate in a way that's working with them? Is it be able to break down the numbers? Like, what do you think is the disconnect right now?
From my perspective, I think there's so much information out there that I'm hoping that AI can come out and help us communicate it more effectively and sort of distill it down and make it easier to digest. Because we get so overwhelmed sometimes that I know, we're looking at commercial office space, and every other day I'm just like, I'm done with this. I can't take it. There's too much to try to process and digest. And so I'm pretty simple. I try to look at it from the standpoint of what I've dealt with when I bought a home, and I just want simple. But maybe that's just my age. I don't know.
One of the disconnects, Steve Murray does this report every year. He used to own Real Trends. He's moved on now since, but he would do this study every year, and it was called a danger report. And one of the things what he would do is you try and figure out what are the biggest threats to our industry as a real estate professional. And for a long time, the number one concern that people had of their listing agent was what? They didn't communicate enough. Like they put a sign in the yard, didn't hear from them, or not hearing from my loan officer enough, or there was a communication issue. In the late teens, about 2019, that actually changed. The number one threat to our industry is that the consumer now feels like they know more than we do. So when you talk about what the disconnect is, we don't have to guess at what it is. There's actual reports and studies that are done. This is what the consumers say. Because isn't it true that like they have probably gone to the house already that they're now taking you to show you? They went to the open house. They've driven by it a million times. Their friend or somebody through soccer. So they know more about the house than the buyer's agent when they come into. So this is a real concern. So I would use AI to help maybe boost your perception of your wisdom. Like we were talking about earlier, have an opinion about the industry and have that be based on knowledge. So up your game and be your worth. Be worth knowing.
I want to circle back just to the getting business. How can AI get business? Obviously, we're at the tip of the iceberg right now when it comes to AI. So I'd be curious to see how you guys think that business can be generated by AI or some possibilities that maybe aren't here right now, but over the next 12, 24 months. What do you guys see on the horizon changing? I'll start with Larry.
More at-bats chats is what I call it. So more conversations is going to help you start more conversations, create more conversations. And what's great about AI is consistency is the biggest obstacle we all face. When it comes to creating content, posting content, consistency is the key. Like if you, it's just like running a marathon, training for a marathon. If you train every day for a month and your body adapts, and then you take a month off, you're not stepping back in right where you were. It's the same thing with social media. You have to keep that consistency going forward. So I think AI can help with a lot of things, ideation, content creation, and obviously, posting and getting you involved in more conversations.
What's that one software you're telling me about? Is it Air?
Oh, Air, yeah, lead conversion. Oh, yeah. So I saw this video the other day, and it was a guy talking to Tesla. He says, "Hello, James," and he's like, "Yeah." A guy on the other end of the phone, he's like, "Yeah, I don't have time right now." And he's like, "Yeah, I get that, but can I just ask you a question?" And he says, "I'm calling from Tesla Motors," and he's like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And it was AI calling his lead, and it sounded like a real human being.
You won't even know the difference.
And it had an accent, because they said studies have shown that if you use AI voices with accents, they stand out more and people are more in tune with it. Whereas if it has my accent, they're just going to hang up on me. So, but they showed a scenario where this AI converted that lead and then said, "Hey, if I have some more information, I can text it to you." He goes, "Yeah, that'd be great." And the AI boom, and he goes, "Wow, I just got that. That was so quick." The guy on the other fender, he was like, "I was so quick, I can't even believe it." So I think that's kind of a good glimpse into where we're going. How many people in here buy leads on a regular basis? Yeah. So lead conversions.
How many people here hate cold calling and would love a robot to do it for you to generate leads?
Yeah.
That's coming.
So for instance, exactly right on lead conversion. So with our transaction copilot, there'll be a cell phone number, that's a texting number that your client can text in, but it's who's your AI agent acting on your behalf about all the questions about your file and what's going on, and so it can field all those questions 24/7, the consistent version of you. And what you just said too about the accent is what I called Larry about a couple weeks ago about this tone of voice thing, because I was on stage doing a class and we started talking about this tone of voice, and I sat there and all of a sudden I was like, but what if you're not effective? What if your tone of voice is not effective? Isn't our job to sell a house or to connect? Shouldn't our tone of voice be about trying to attract the right client for this listing? Or you see what I mean? So there's an absolute appropriate place to use your tone of voice. But even stepping back in the business side, I want to make sure that this industry, if I'm going to be hard on it for a second, is a lot of pictures of houses and faces, rates and faces. It's all our faces everywhere. It's about us everywhere. It's about the clients. It's about their properties. Just my opinion, right? So I think we should be careful about using us too much and be more about the conduit between buyers and sellers, about property and people, right? And us is in the co-pilot mode of that. So just something to think about. That was just a great use case about they used a tone of voice that was useful and practical to get the job done.
One of the biggest questions I have in all of this, all of the things you guys have discussed today, is how do you go about integrating all these systems? How do you talk to each other, and where do you even start there? You say, all right, this guy, instantly send him a text. Well, what system was the one that sent a text? What system was the one that was the voiceover? How are they all integrated?
That's a tough one. I think we're going to see more integration between different platforms. Like Eric and I are already talking about, finding a way to integrate our tools together to make them more effective, But if you have a CRM, have whatever tool you're using integrate with that CRM so it's pulling that data. Because honestly, that's the whole purpose of all of this, is to pull that data and use that data to make an educated decision going forward to go to the next step. If I have a lead and they took X amount of actions and your AI reports those actions to me, I know that on a scale of them not buying a house or buying a house, they're probably here versus here. And AI can pull that data and say, this is the person you should call today, right? And that's the power of it.
So there are, because of Zapier and Make and different programs, there are different functions where you can actually integrate or create workflows between systems. So that's, first of all, that could be done now. So surprisingly, a lot of these seemingly siloed things can actually be chained together through something like Zapier. But on top of that, what I'm actually trying to build is an integrated, complete soup to nuts, everything about it. Because that's, as a brokerage owner, as an agent, that's been the most frustrating thing for 20 years, is that nothing works together. You end up using this over here, this over here, this over there. They don't really work together. This is antiquated. This developer thought about it this way, this one. And my mind is just, and that's why in my question was we feel like we're overwhelmed with technology, because it's just a lot to manage. So I'm really trying to think long term, and the entire Who's He is literally supposed to replace all of it in one system. And that's literally like my big vision, is so you don't literally have to go anywhere else. But that's, going to take a couple years.
I think we're probably going to see a lot of mergers and acquisitions too, because it seems like, I don't know if this is correct, you'd know better than me, but I read a stat that like 1,000 companies are being founded every single day around AI right now. People are shotgunning these new ideas out there. Some will stick, some won't. Some people will buy out, proprietary technology, combine it, stuff like that. I think it'll get simpler, but in the early stages, it's a little bit
I think it's important to know too, and as somebody that is probably the least knowledgeable on the stage about AI, we are in this early right now. And so the things that we know today are going to be completely different in a month, in a year, in 2 years. And so the key is to start, right? Take a step, find a tool that can help you with your business, and start using it, and then find another tool. And these tools are going to change over time. They're going to evolve, and your knowledge will accelerate, just like it did with the internet, just like it did, for those of us who just got an iPhone. If you don't have an iPhone, by the way, these things are awesome. Okay, so
This is coming from like a 15-year or whatever Android user, so that's a real testimonial right there.
Wait, I thought you had a flip phone.
Yeah, that's what they all say until they switch.
I love what you
Chad.
said, and I'll also say that just because you can doesn't mean you should. Again, going back to that, and the idea, a lot of this technology is brand new, so what's coming to the table is built by tech people for kind of other tech people because it does cool stuff, but it's not built for everybody, right? It takes too much knowledge or too much prompting or too much work, and it's a little glitchy, it's a little bit early. So my strategy is I'm not the bleeding edge. We're going behind that and looking at all these different puzzle pieces that are being created, and then my job is to take these puzzle pieces and integrate them into a practical application, right? Yeah, exactly, because I'm not a tech, I'm a business person that loves people. So I don't want technology to get in the way of that. I want it to enhance that, so.
And I think a big part is start with the end in mind. And like you went back to consistency, what is your business missing? Instead of, even when I have someone build out their database, we start with we write out on paper, what's the goal of this, right? What's the end in mind, and where can AI help with that? Instead of going, I need to incorporate all these bright, shiny objects, what's missing? If it's consistency, hey, AI, write out 40 posts about why it's a great time to buy in real estate and put them in my notes section, and one day I put them out there, right? If that's what you need, what's missing in your business, and let AI be an assistant to that, I think is huge. And the other thing that's really a great conversation to have with yourself is, what's not changing, right? So a lot is changing. What's not changing? What's not changing is people want to feel cared about. What's not changing is people want wisdom, right? What's not changing is people want to feel like you're having a relevant conversation with them, right? Use AI to impact those things. There's a lot that isn't changing, and we use AI to help with that, I think is a great way to look at it.
We do overcomplicate things. I was on a panel the other day talking about generational changes and talking to Gen Z versus millennials versus boomers. And I was like, but what generation just doesn't want their needs met before the salesperson's? What person doesn't want to be communicated in the method and when they want to be communicated with? They're just basic human nature things, and that's cross-panel across
Do you
everything.
have a question? All right, and just let me tee this up really quick. With questions, if we like them, we're going to answer. If we don't like them, we're just going to shut them down. Is that all right? Can we do that in this room? Is that cool? Yeah, okay. All right, good. I just want to make sure we'll go on good bunny trails, and we'll cut the other bunny trails off. All right, what do you got?
Better be good.
I get to get on a plane tomorrow, so I get to leave. I'm safe. No.
I love this.
Yeah, want to arm wrestle?
So,
Fight. Let's do this.
So first of all, hopefully you get the vibe of us that I don't compete. Larry doesn't compete. Just in general, the whole idea is not to compete. I think that you set up your idea or your business on the predication that you have to have beating somebody else, that you've set yourself up to lose eventually, right? Like setting yourself up like you're just going to win regardless. So Larry's going to have a bunch of people. I'm going to have a bunch of people. There's a bunch of people. But they're doing different things. And that's actually part of the reason why I was trying to say specialized GPT. You need to use a specialized AI to do your specialized task. Or you need to be the specialist and use a general AI like ChatGPT and figure it out, but one or the other.
So they would complement each other.
Totally, it seems like it.
Yeah. Here's a great question. Ask yourself, where are you losing money right now? Like where's the biggest hole in your business? There's a company right now with a company that's called Be Human, and what they did with their company is they found people were canceling their subscriptions right after 30 days, whatever. So they made a video. When you cancel your subscription with them, the CEO recorded one video. And that video, the AI changes the name. That's all it changes, right? Hey, Christina. Hey, Joe. Hey, whatever. I saw that you just canceled. The video goes out about 20 minutes after they cancel, right? This video goes out, hey, Christina, I saw that you just canceled. Most people cancel because they just didn't have enough time to try out the platform. I wanted to give you another 45 days so you can get in there and try it out. By the way, watch this video first and let me know your thoughts. And the feeling is, I just got a video from the CEO of this company who gave me another 45 days to stuff. He did nothing. It was an automation, right? When they hit unsubscribe and their email's there, it automatically kicks that video out 20 minutes later. And they feel like right? And their retention rate went through the roof, right? So in your business, look at where are the holes? Where am I missing out on, right? If it's past clients, like where's the hole? And then go find here's the hole I need to fill, right? And then get with one of these guys who goes, what's the AI that would best help fill that hole? Does that make sense? Instead of, I got to adopt everything. But you better start. You know what I mean? Yeah. Make sense?
I'm totally recording a video for people who cancel their subscription now, too.
100%.
Yeah, and I'm going to cry.
I'm going to cancel just to see what happens. I'll resubscribe, but I want to give the video.
Eating
All
a
right,
peanut butter sandwich.
Let me ask this. What do you think is what's the downside for us? What's the biggest downside of AI in the next little while for our industry or as individuals?
Fear, scams. That's the first place I usually go to is like, when the internet came out, it was used maliciously too. There's people that use the internet for malicious intent, and same with AI. The only drawback with AI is I think they're going to get more complex, more elaborate, and harder to detect going forward, and that's my fear with it.
I'm just going to define it in terms of a gap. I think AI is the biggest gap creator we've ever seen between the people that are going to use it and the people that won't, the people that are thinking this way and the people that aren't. I'm worried about that gap. I'm worried about the gap between this seemingly godlike technology and our archaic institutions in a society that still like fights over a PlayStation on Black Friday, right? We have these institutions that are behind, public, our finance, our law, our education system, and this tech. We have these gaps, and that's my biggest concern is these gaps that are being created because that's not good on society. It's good for the individuals, but I do have that concern also. Part of my mission is how do we have the most people that are, anchoring themselves up and leveling themselves up, absolutely.
You guys, I'm about 75% sure that I personally, about 2 weeks ago, was involved in an AI scam inside of real estate here in Clark County. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about it or not.
On the way to the closing tables when you found it?
A day before, yeah. So I had a seller under contract, and we were moving their property. When I say it out loud, it sounds like, oh, you should have caught that. But to be fair, the escrow agent didn't catch that this was a fake seller. I didn't catch it. The other agent didn't catch it. Somebody needed to offload their land, and they had their reasons. They would call me at every angle, like the little stuff. Who's this? I won't say the name, but who's this escrow officer reaching out? And this was an old lady on the phone. So unless there's an 80-year-old lady out there very intelligently knowledgeable about how to create scams in the real estate world, and I don't really understand what their end game was, but what I did find out from the escrow is that this is the 5th property last month that this occurred on that just went through this. You had one too.
What was yours?
Probably the same group of people. I'm communicating with the sheriffs right now.
Yeah, no worries. It was a lot, and basically the lady talked to her on the phone, everything listed, name matched up, everything. Number would have phone calls, texts, whatever. Escrow did catch it because it was on a close fast, which is usually a red flag, right? It was like, hey, I'm in an emergency situation and I want to close, whatever. So we ended up finding the real number. We like tracked a different number for the lady, called her. She was like, yeah, I'm not selling that land. I was like, I wouldn't even sell it for that price.
Yeah. And I don't truly understand. It sounded like when talking to the escrow agent that it could happen. It has happened in other parts of the country. I don't get that. But what was really concerning is we were about to rezone this parcel from AG to rural R5 so that we could sell this thing. And that real owner would have gotten stuck with a $27,000 back tax bill. That would have happened. There would have been no way out of it, and we were this close. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll, I'll tell you exactly how it actually happens, just to demystify. So literally, anybody can do this. Like today, I could create a little AI agent and give it a task. So you give it a goal. That goal, let's say, is to get a routing number or wiring instructions or your email address. I could give it a goal, give it a voice, parameters, phone numbers of who to call and everything, and just let it loose and just see what happens. And I have zero connection to it.
It also costs you $0.
And it cost me literally almost $0. So think if they just deploy 1,000 of those, 100,000 of those, and the phones will start ringing. So like my family, we have a safe word now. So like if there's something weird going on, we have a little word. So if this phone call seems weird and it's off, then on the safe word you don't say it. People say like, well, that's scary. I'm like, well, you still lock your front door. Like you just take precaution based on what's going on. It's not a big deal. But yeah, we have a safe word now.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's one thing I want to say on that as far as the marketing side goes. One of the things that takes me off that my clients don't do often enough is tell their story. They're not sharing what they're doing as experts for the industry. And I would say, like, I would walk away from this class and go, I just left this great class where we talked about with some of the experts in the country on how to do this, what to, like share that you're doing this, share that you're doing the work, share that you're learning, like, tell the story that you're doing this stuff to separate yourself from everybody else, right? Like, don't miss these moments to put that on social, to put that on your marketing, to make people understand what's happening. Yeah. This one, I'm going to ask a couple questions and we'll open it up more.
So
Be good.
Wayne, if I can just say something, just to reiterate what David said, one of the most common elements of any fraudulent activity is a reason for you to move quickly. If you're being pushed to move quickly, that should be an automatic red flag. Slow down, stop, and ask some questions. It's the number one thing you can do.
I was able to shut it down, by the way, as soon as I asked for, like, hey, I really need you to send me some picture ID because some stuff here looks weird. So I feel like AI could probably address that eventually. So it's probably not a full force backstop, but that did help.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it's
There you
got
go.
to go.
Yeah. Now read this email. All right, Larry. Let me ask you this question. What do you hope someone comes back here next year saying, I used your stuff, and here's what it did for me? What would you love that testimony to sound like a year from now?
It's like I was talking earlier, more at bats, more conversations, because I think you guys are in the people business, and I think conversations is where you get your business, and who you're having those conversations with matters. So creating some consistency around that so that you're constantly having those communications and knowing who to have those conversations with as well is super important. I know you guys, a lot of people in here probably ignore your database. When I meet with an agent for the first time, I'm like, how long has it been since you reached out to your database? They're like, so I think that's the one place that you could probably start. Like Eric's follow-up, if you put your database in Whoosy and you just set it to go, and it's going to sound authentic.
Yeah. Eric, what about you? Someone uses your software a year from now. What do you want them to be able to say, like, it did this for me, here's the impact?
Larry, you made a good point on the stage about, like, there's this vibe that if it's not free, the agent won't do it, or if it's not easy, the agent won't do it. What seller wants an agent with that attitude? You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, like, just some real talk here for a second. And so to answer your question, to roll that back into my platform, is that we just have that we step into this role that's like, oh my gosh, there are a lot of friction points, and a lot of roadblocks between being average and busy in life and being an outstanding real estate agent. There's a lot of friction there, right? So can an AI system help remove some of those roadblocks and reduce that friction between an average or busy with life and busy with my kids and all this other stuff and being an outstanding, excellent agent? Yes, it can. So my answer would be, I'd hope you come back in a year from now and go, thank you for pointing that out, that I should just use AI, harness this cognitive labor, help me be outstanding because you'll be the one that's left.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to ask you guys just go down the line here, individual questions about the future of AI. We'll go one after another, but Larry, where do you see the future of AI just specifically impacting how it's going to impact marketing in specific?
Automation. I think automation is going to be key. Like Eric touched on auto GPT or agent GPT, where you can you give it a task and you say, go complete this task, and don't report back until the task is completed. So a couple weeks ago, I was like, what if I could do this? So what if I took Agent GPT and said, go out and research all of the 10 most pressing articles with relation to housing and real estate and report back to me and tell me what they are. And then from that, summarize a bunch of those articles and put it into 3 pieces of content that I can use to post here, here, and here that sounds authentic in my voice, so that I can start conversations with people around that topic right there. And it's topical, it's relevant, and you can do that now. You can do that with Agent GPT. You just go in and say, this is what I want, do this, and then report back to me. And it did it. It said, like, cool, we created these 3 pieces of content. You ready to post them to social? And I was like, oh, wow.
If you're not posting 4 valuable pieces of content a day on social media, you don't understand how easy it is to use AI.
Yeah. But that's automation is where I see, at least on the marketing side, automation is going to be the key to
Like your
consistency.
weekly database emails, newsletters, pulling
That too.
content for that.
Yeah.
No,
So
it's time-consuming.
newsletter. So check this out. I use Bard. Anybody know what Google Bard is in here? Google Bard. So the thing with ChatGPT is it's not connected to the internet. It was, but it wasn't, and then they turned it off. But I went into Google Bard and I said, hey, give me a list of all the top family-friendly events that are happening in September in Clark County and Cowlitz County. It was like, here, we put up 10 events. And I said, turn this into an email newsletter with links to those events as well. And it like, cool, okay, here you go. And it fired it out. And I was like, that's an item of value you can send out to your database. Like now it's a curated list of content for you. And instead of taking you an hour to go curate that content, it did it in minutes. And I have an item of value that I can send out to my database now.
On top of automation, I would say personalization.
Yeah.
If we do have a communication tool that's that good at helping you communicate, then we should be focused on personalization of these messages. So if you did want to send out a newsletter today and it went out to your 500 people in your database, why can't it write 500 different emails that go out that personalize that person? You see what I'm saying? And that's what I believe is really the power. And now you're developing deeper relationships with the individual using AI, not leveraging AI to do more in less time, right? So let's deepen these relationships. And I think personalization on top of automation. So if you add the combination of those two, you become a superhero.
Well, just like what you were talking about earlier, Wayne, the CEO being able to address every single individual customer by name. Like,
Amazing.
How many of you guys find yourself saying things like, hey, friend, and sending it out to many people? What's up, fam?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I mean, like that takes it a deeper level of personalization and authenticity.
Yeah. So good.
The real reason Chad's up here, probably the only AI area I think you're probably more knowledgeable than other people in, mortgage lending. How do you see the future of AI impacting lending as it pertains to real estate agents and our transactions, but also like other lenders?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm really excited to learn about all the things that AI is going to be able to do in terms of marketing and day-to-day operations and efficiency. And so I'm also realizing how much more I need to learn when it comes to that. So I'm with you guys on that. But I've been largely focused for the past 7 or 8 years on trying to create more efficiency in the mortgage business. And there's a lot of things happening in the mortgage world. And it's really exciting for those of us who are kind of on the leading edge of it. In fact, those of you who know me, you know that the reason we switched to Cardinal about 5 years ago is because they've been working on this. They're not the only one. There's many companies that are out there working on it. There's many companies that aren't. But what we're seeing is mortgage companies are using automation and AI to really start to reduce the amount of labor involved in closing a loan transaction. On any given loan transaction today, there's at least a dozen people involved. That's a dozen people who take time. That's a dozen people who can make mistakes. And of course, that's a dozen people who add cost to the transaction. And so what's coming in the not too distant future, and this may be within a year or two, maybe sooner, is a change in how this industry operates in terms of, we used to have to decide, do we want to be a price leader or do we want to be a service leader? Or do we want to kind of try to hedge and do a little bit of both? And what's happening right now, today, is that companies are reallocating their human resources to improve the customer experience, to increase their service levels, to get faster, and at the same time, they are reducing their costs. And so there's going to be a wave of lenders, and I certainly hope we're one of them, that they're going to come out and be able to be a price leader and a service leader at the same time. And just like all the other things we're talking about, the people who win that race, they're going to use artificial intelligence to create an advantage that is insurmountable to the others. And if I'm with a mortgage company that hasn't started, I probably already lost. This has been going on now for almost a decade in the mortgage space. So a lot of the things we're just starting to hear about, and we're just getting these great ideas, a lot of them started years ago. And so we don't sometimes realize how long this has actually been taking, but the curve, it's like the hockey stick that we were talking about. It's starting to really accelerate now.
Well, and I'm hearing you say, like, up until this point, I've always been told this, like, you can either, a good business to compete can either have speed, quality, what's the other one? Service. Speed, quality, and service, or, well, and cost, right? So speed, quality, service, kind of the same thing, and then cost. So if you're the cheapest, you're probably not going to be the best quality and the fastest. If you're the fastest, you might be the fastest, best quality, but you're not going to be cheap, right? And I think that AI, what we're starting to see is, like, it's going to allow certain companies that embrace this to be able to be the fastest, the cheapest, and the best quality. And we're already starting to see that in the mortgage side. I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about Cardinal specifically a little bit more, but.
Sure, and I can just share what we're doing. This is not a Cardinal pitch, but we're one of several companies that are really pushing this. And what we're starting to see right now is companies automating things like disclosures. Next week, we're rolling out our automated docs. So we're no longer going to have doc drawers. Our system is already set up and been tested to where when we get a clear close, the docs are going to go out automatically. And these are people that are, to Wayne's point, or actually I think it was Larry's point, these are jobs that are being displaced. But what we're trying to do as a company is move those people into more service roles and try to improve the customer experience. And we think that the industry is going to do that as a whole, but that's what will contribute to improving the service side of things. And again, there are many companies that are pursuing this. It's not like we're the only one. And I think that we're going to see more and more of this. There's going to be companies we've never heard of that are going to leapfrog and become leaders. And just like all the things we're talking about, the speed of advancement in these areas is going to reach a breakneck speed. It's really going to be. Well,
and one of the things, just from my vantage point, because I've had a view of this over the last 10 years, one of the things that I'm so, I think it's so incredible that you and Brett and stuff did years ago was you all invested, and I mean, I'll brag on you if you won't brag on you, right? Like years ago, you guys poured millions of dollars into all this technology before you had to. Right? So like what I think great leaders do is they see the change coming and they take action before they have to. Most people wait till they have to, then they take action. Some people just keep dragging their feet. But you guys took massive action. You put tons of money and infrastructure on the line way before you needed to because you saw what was coming. And I think that's a true testament to what you guys are doing in your leadership. That was 5, 6, 7 years ago when everyone's like, what are you doing? Right? And a lot of people are pulling back into areas, and you guys are tripling down. And I think it's a huge testament to what you guys have done on the backside to allow an amazing opportunity for your clients moving forward.
Well, I appreciate that. And it is nice to be in an environment now where we don't sound like we're crazy when we talk about this stuff. But,
yeah.
But the thing that is coming, just to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek, and again, this is a year, maybe 2 years out. We think maybe sooner. But there's going to come a time when your clients can go into their mortgage company and sit down, take an application, slide their tax returns, bank statements, pay stubs across the table. That loan officer will upload those items, and before that meeting's over, their loan is approved. That is coming, fully approved. Yeah. We'll just need a title report, an appraisal, and your insurance binder, and you can close. We're going to be closing loans as an industry in 8 days. We'll probably be reaching out to try to get the Respatilla laws changed so we can close faster. That is coming very soon, so be aware of it.
Yeah.
Can you explain or elaborate a little bit more on how AI is going to be driving the price down, just from what you've seen?
Yeah,
as far
so
as how this process works a little bit.
Yeah, so if you dive into the mortgage process in general, and it's the same on real estate. It's the same with any business. We have a lot of people involved because there's a lot of tasks. In the mortgage business, we've got the originator, the loan officer assistant, the processor, the underwriter, you know, all the people you'd think of, but there's also all the compliance folks. There's the people who sell the loan on the secondary market. There's the people who hedge. There's all these different jobs and all these different rules we have to, you know, abide by, and all these tolerances and all these things we have to do. And right now we have really, really good people doing those things, but they're not as good as AI is going to be. That's just the reality of it. So as we start to replace some of those tasks with artificial intelligence, that cost goes to zero very quickly.
Documents come in, from what I've heard, they go out to a couple different softwares.
I'm not supposed to talk about that.
Proprietary?
So what's going to happen, and I'll just say it in sort of generalities, but companies are going to send the documents to analytics services that are going to evaluate that, spit back data. And as long as that data meets their criteria, which is what I'm not going to go into, the system itself will sign off on that condition, and a human doesn't have to look at it. So that's what's coming.
Amazing.
Wow. And then same kind of question, future of AI, how it's going to impact, like for you, Eric, like productivity, and with what Who's really nailing down on.
The untold story here is how quickly this is unfolding, and it's not just because of AI, it's because of processing power. Now we have computers that are actually processing at basically 10 to the 15, which is similar to our brain power. Like, processing is there. So because of that, that's been this influx. So just to give a little bit of backstory, it's actually not the AI technology. It's been there. We just haven't had the processing power to really do it at this scale and at this speed. So because of that, we have today's fastest computer creating tomorrow's fastest computer, creating tomorrow's, and you just see this exponential scale at which things can develop, and that's why that gap scares me the most. Because when you have such a rapid advancement of intellect into, if I'm just going to be honest, a society that's not as advancing so quickly, what happens when those dances collide, right? So as I look at this, and when I go back to my phrase about AI is just cognitive labor, the reason why it helps drive price down is really cheap cognitive labor. So if you just simply look at it that way, then all of us can harness really cheap cognitive labor to all of us do a really great job to all, you know what I mean? So this is really the level playing field. This isn't something where the big guys win. You all have access to AI that's really dirt cheap, if not free, and people that can help you use it. So this is really a level playing field. So I would say that just think about it that way. So if you are interested in being more productive, there is a path for you. If you're interested in being better for your client, there's a path for you now, better than ever before. So
It's the great leveling. I mean, I am optimistic that this is probably going to be the greatest transformation of wealth that we've ever seen in our lives.
I was originally really pessimistic. I was like, okay, the robots are coming for sure. You know, in a couple of years,
Well,
I spent 2
aliens are
years of
here,
my
so-
life, and I traveled the country and documented all the riots that were happening across the country and everything that was happening, right? And I got a really good insight into humanity. We're pretty good at being mean to each other as it is. We're pretty good at killing each other as it is. I don't think we need much help to do that. But I do think that AI brings in a lot of intelligence to the playground, let's say, without the dogmas of politics and mental illness and religion that messes up everything with trying to be interacting with each other. And I actually think it's going to help provide a rudder, that we're going to have a lot of more logical insight that we didn't have before. I'm kind of seeing it this way now, honestly, and it's been a really interesting change for me to see that perspective change.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's open up some questions. What do you got?
Yeah, just a good question. Well, this is loud. Going back to just the speed of getting that pre-approved and having it fully underwritten, do you see that being a bigger competitor to cash offers? You know, with the way as you close faster on these loans and saying, hey, this is pretty much as good as cash because we've looked at everything up front, and now it's like.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the shorter the time frame takes to get a loan done, the better we can compete with cash. And I think there's going to be, we'll see what changes occur, but some of the things that we think might happen is we might see some of the, waiting periods change a little bit. We might see situations where we fully underwrite somebody before they ever look at a house. I think that'll probably become the norm. Because why wouldn't you? If it's only an hour or 2 hours long, go in and get fully underwritten. And now, we're depending on our title companies and our insurance agents and appraisers, which, by the way, we're going to have less and less appraisals moving forward as well due to artificial intelligence. And our title companies are going to get faster. Our insurance agents are going to get faster. And this whole process is going to get very quick. And so the faster it gets, the less appealing cash becomes, for sure. It's a great question.
All offers are cash to the seller. Yeah. Truly. And so now if you have this pre-written underwriting right away.
Someone comes in, I can close in 3 days, 4 days versus
right?
And they will carry different weight. You know what I mean? Like at some point in the near future, be like, hey, this is AI underwritten, which means it's bulletproof, whatever, right? Like we're gonna get to a place where it's like, hey, Joe at the local bank thinks like, oh yeah, I think they're good. I looked at like a bank statement. Versus like I ran it through the entire internet in 8 minutes and they're good. Like I would sign off on this, right? Like there's gonna be a big, like you said, the gap's gonna get huge. Yep. Okay, let's do a couple more.
So 2 questions. This for Chad. I know you keep your thumb on this kind of stuff really well, and I'm always interested to hear your opinion. What is the future of interest rates? Whatever. What is your projection for 2024? I know you don't have a crystal ball. Wayne, because I know you're an amazing real estate coach, what is your advice to agents, everyone in this room, to navigate this, market shift or current reality now and into next year?
So the good news about interest rates is that they are still in the single digits.
Woo! Come on now.
I'm gonna check really quick.
Yeah.
Although we do have a Fed decision next week, so no. So it's anybody who thinks they know exactly what's going to happen with rates is probably a little more confident than they should be. But if you look at sort of the general consensus, and that's what I look at, I also look at the hedges that are being made on the secondary market, because those people are only employed if they're right more than they're wrong. Okay, so what we think is going to happen is that we're going to see rates start to ease. Q4 of this year, Q1 of next year, okay? The question is going to be how fast do they ease and what's going to cause those rates to come down. Initially, if the Fed doesn't change any monetary policy, if they just stay higher for longer like they're saying they're going to do, what we expect to see is a shrinkage in the gap between the 10-year Treasury and interest rates. Right now, the gap between those two is larger than it's supposed to be, okay? And it's larger than it's supposed to be for a few reasons. Most notably is quantitative tightening, which is the process by where the Treasury is selling off all the bonds that they bought from themselves back during COVID. And so they're flooding the market with more Treasury bonds than the market wants to buy, and as a result, they demand a higher premium. We expect to see that come down, and that should, if that's the only thing that changes, bring rates down somewhere in their neighborhood of 100 basis points. Not guaranteeing that. That's just what the experts are telling us. There are other things that could cause that to change, obviously, and so we don't know what's going to happen with rates. I'm not a big believer in trying to tell people with any certainty what's going to happen, because all that does is set you up for to be wrong. But we're among friends here. I think the likely outcome is somewhere next year we'll see rates dropping back into the 6s, and maybe it goes farther from there depending on what happens. Now, if we get into a recession, that could change more quickly. So, does that answer your question?
So here's my follow-up to that. How many of you actually understood what the heck he just said? Right, like the 2 of you, awesome, I love you, you're brilliant, right? Okay, so if it was me, what I would do is I would get that recording, I would put that verbiage into ChatGPT, and I would say, how do I explain this to an average person? Right, like, hey, right, that's what I would do. I would go to ChatGPT and I'd be like, I got my blood work back from my doctor a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I have no idea, right? I put it in ChatGPT and I was like, tell me how I am. Right, and ChatGPT is like, all right, here's what's up. You need to like do this and this, right? I'm like, thank God, right? But like, what you're experiencing is exactly the opportunity, right? Go to ChatGPT and go, how do I explain this at a 4th grade level to somebody to help them make great decisions, right? And that's the opportunity, right? Like information versus wisdom, right? Or information, be able to unpack it with a crayon at a diner so that somebody understands how to make the next right decisions. Make sense, right? And I think that's a beautiful piece. So
again, if you want, I can try again. Rates are going to go down.
Yeah. Woo!
Champagne.
Tell us you're smart without telling us you're smart, Chad. Yeah. And then back to your point, which was, remind me of the question.
Yeah. So advice on navigating.
Oh, advice navigating. Yeah. I would say the dumbest thing you could do is do this on your own. And what I mean by that is trying to trial and error is the hardest way to do something. If it's avoidable, right? You're going to have to do enough trial and error as it is in our industry, but if you can avoid some of that, you may as well do that. So my biggest advice to you right now is, and obviously I'm a little biased being a coach, but I would get with my coach. I would get with one of these guys and go, here's my business. There's 100 shoulds, right? Like I should, right? I should do this with video. I should, like, there's 100 shoulds that each of you should do. And you're going to get lost in the wilderness of shoulds. You need someone, and usually it takes somebody else to help guide you and go, all right, of all the options, let's pick the one or two that we will, and let's go nail those, right? Let's go knock those out of the park. So I think it's easy to walk out here going, there's 100 options, and there are, right? But get with someone who can give you some insight in your business, who can see around the corner a little bit and go, let's here's the 100 things. Let's pick the 2 or 3 that we're going to go get really, really great at, and then we can go pick some more of that. But I would come up with a could, should, must list almost. Here's things we could do. Here's the things we probably should do. Here's the 2 or 3 we must do, and put them in order.
Solid.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned to fill in the holes of the business, something that I could get started on right away. And this may be a silly question, but I have a large database, and you can't get through all that database. I mean, I have them in A, B, C, and D. But my question is, could I plug them in something like Koozie, and it would tell me, you know, I'm scared to let those people go, and I totally probably don't even know who I am.
Reevaluate.
When do I delete that person? Like, how many times do I reach out to them with email, text, call before I can say, delete it? You know, to make it systemize it. Is that something that Koozie would help with?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a couple different ways to approach it. First of all, I think philosophically is, when you cut somebody off, philosophically, I don't believe in having a database per se. I believe in being in the flow of the business. Is just a little bit different way of looking at it. So, back to my earlier point about collecting people and then dripping on them, just has never really made sense because people do business with other people that they didn't necessarily know, like, and trust. They just have to be at the right position at the right time to provide the right value, right? So this idea that you go out and you hug your customers and create these relationships and they're always going to do business with you. We've met people at soccer that didn't use you for your real estate agent or people in your family, right? So the whole idea is about creating value in the right moment, at the right time, and then a lot of times the relationship happens from there. So I'm always constantly looking for, obviously you want to plant a lot of seeds and be looking in the future, but isn't there people that need to buy a house today or get a loan today or want to see a home today or list their home today? So all of my focus is on that, and then I create relationships that will branch off from there. So yes, you can evaluate. I'm just trying to twist it just a little bit. Yes, you can evaluate your database, but also I think about, well, if you're doing all that work, why aren't you evaluating who are the people that are buying today? They might not be in your database. So where are those people at, and how do you find them? So that's what AI can help you do. Like a system like Koozie, that's why I declare the different personality types and the files. So you could explore that really quickly, and then really quickly be like, oh, the more leads I have, the more options I have. So let's go find more options, right? And so you could twist it a little bit that way too. Did I answer your question good enough? Okay.
And I would just totally disagree.
I love this.
And what I mean by that, I'm giving you a hard time. What I mean by this, like, I think there's a lot of truth. I'm totally giving him a hard time because
Trust me, I love this.
He wouldn't love me if I didn't. There's a tool we have right now called Reevaluate, which you can put your database. We did this on Wednesday. The guy opened his database up, put his database in there, and it kicked back. It uses AI, all these amazing platforms, and what they do is they look at all the people that are in their database, cross-reference that with all these other things, and they tell them all the deals they had missed out on that were in their database in the last 12 months. And like the dude was almost in tears in the front of the room, right? He's like, why do I volunteer for this stuff? Like he was outraged, right? Because it was
2.5 million GCI.
It was a huge, and they're like, do you know Larry? And he's like, yeah, I know that guy, right?
This
like
actually proves my point exactly.
Right? It was brutal, right? But here's where it's coming in, right? The software is then looking at all the things they're doing, the purchasing history, all this other stuff to help bring to the bottom of the bucket who you need to reach out to. Because the hard thing is you open your database, it's like 8,000 people, 20,000 people. It's like, I don't know, I can't not calling everybody this month, right? You need AI to assist you to go, oh, looks like Dave's kind of bubbling at the top. I'm just going to call Dave and check in. Dave, what's up? How you doing? And Dave's like, oh, actually, we're thinking about moving to whatever. Like, oh, that's so weird.
Crazy.
The robots told me. Yes.
What?
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
doesn't it connect to like stuff in Scrub? Like
Oh,
that
yeah,
search and,
absolutely.
Like,
Connects to
Dave
your-
visited Zillow last week. Wayne, you should probably call him.
What's that?
Like, let you know that he visited Zillow and stuff like that.
Dude,
He's
it's
in
amazing.
the
Yeah,
activity.
yeah.
That's a cool tool.
So leverage it to help you with those things. Because here's the thing: you have 3 resources, right? Your 3 big resources are your time, your money, and your energy. So letting AI help you get the biggest bang for your buck is really important, right? So it's like, how do I let that be more effective and efficient, and spend time in the right place? So does that answer it? Reevaluate. Yeah, we got a sneak peek behind it on Wednesday, so yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it's out.
It is
Yeah.
out. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
$79 or 1987.
No.
Brace yourself for
No.
that.
I mean, I think it's like, it was what, $2,000?
I think it was 2 grand.
And they lost 2.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not good at math, but I think that's a good. Like, I'm not super good at it, but like that's a
Good
pretty.
ROI?
Yeah, I think that's a decent ROI. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. All right, Dan, any other questions you wanted to ask from the room?
I mean, I'd be curious to hear just more of your guys' questions, and maybe transition into a little discussion. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Social media. I mean, you think about where the evolution of the internet is. We basically went from posting about business to just posting all about our lives, and all about our lives is all the buying habits. So, for instance, Hoosie, yeah, you can connect to social media, and we will be like essentially scrubbing. When I talked about a CRM being inverted, I view Hoosie as that inversion. So it's like, oh, hey, Bob mentioned that they're looking for a painter. Isn't painter a life event that might trigger a home sale? So you might want to reach out to Bob. Right, that sort of vibe, and that's what I'm building now. So I look at social media as the number one place that you actually be interactive with and find those people.
It's no, but like to your point earlier, it's no different than what Amazon's been doing to you for 10 years, right? How many of you log into Amazon? You're like, shoot, I do want that book. Like, I had no idea. Like, I can't believe I need that thing for my kitchen. You know what I mean? Right? Like, that's exactly what it's doing. It's already happening to us, so we may as well start using it for right. So, like in your product in the future, you log in and you don't have to remember all this stuff anymore. You know that Dave loves Italian. This is his favorite place. Exactly. His birthday's this date. He loves to walk in this park. Like, it's freaky, and yet it's all out there. Right, the big guys are using it, so why aren't we using it to level up our connection in our database?
And that shows exactly how hackable we are as people. We're very, very hackable.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a lot of emphasis put on how do we prompting machines. Just to be fully show all my cards here, I'm in the business of prompting human beings. Right, if you understand that, like what's coming out of Hoosie or what's coming out of, that's really telling people what to do and how to operate their business. I think that we should be taking that very seriously, is how influenced are we by the machines telling us what to do. Right, so these are one of those very deep philosophical discussion. But if you realize that we're being prompted by machines, whose alignment with you, and what are they telling you to do, and why are they telling you to do it, and how are they telling you to do it, right? So that's what I mean by using a specialized GPT, or you being specialized at using it, so you're more in control of what's being spit back out at you.
Yeah. If you want to get ticked off, go watch that. So what is it? The social
dilemma.
Yeah, social dilemma.
So branching off of that, like there's several large language models out there. And Facebook has a really, really powerful one now. In fact, Facebook, the ones that I'm really, really worried about are Google and Facebook, because they have more data on us than anybody. Google knows everything that we're searching for. Like they're probably completely confused by my search history, but but like the amount of data that they have, and building a prediction model around that data. Like Facebook has a ton of info. You guys think it's a social network? It's not a social network. It's a data mining center. That's what they're doing. They're mining data. So now they can create a profile around me and know what's going to push my buttons, and what kind of content to put in front of me, or what kind of products to put in front of me that's going to make me hit that pay or subscribe button. So ChatGPT, the reason they made it free, by the way, is they said, we want everybody to go use it because we're going to use you as the example to go train the model, so that we can use that to pull out GPT-4, and then we're going to still give it away for free so people keep using it, so we're going to use it to continually learn. Well, like if Zillow ever comes up with their own AI architecture, I think that might be frightening.
To show how that went, like GPT-2 had about like 1.7 billion parameters. GPT-3 had 175 billion parameters. GPT-4 has 1.7 trillion. So you see the exponential factor of the intelligence and what's being fed into it. We're talking about 1,000x each iteration. So do 1,000x again, and look where we're at, right? So those are deep numbers. This is because of all of us putting all the information in.
Scary.
Yeah.
What about success stories? If you want to finish.
I was just going to say, how does that saying go? If you don't know what the product is,
you're the product.
You are the product.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a big thing. That's another good side note. You're kind of going to your jab, right hook thing. For all of us, and this is a second piece, but what is attention is the currency of today. Meaning, when you're watching videos, somebody else is getting paid.
right? When you're reading somebody else's content, somebody else is getting paid, right? When you're creating content, usually you're getting paid. So I think a big part of this is like using it to become the creator, right? Use it to become the person putting it out there, right? Stop being like, get ticked off that every time you're watching everybody else's videos, someone else is getting paid. Like, let that tick you off and go like, I'm not going to be a consumer all the time. I'm going to be a creator. Like, I'm going to get me some.
I just wanted to touch on, because I know that some of you guys got several success stories, but how have you guys seen agents actually thus far use AI to close more business, see success, land that listing, whatever?
I got a good one. So I created like a prompt to help create like a marketing plan around a specific listing, and I had an agent approach me, and she was like, hey, I'm going to go to this listing, and I want to kind of wow them when I walk in the door. So we developed this prompt, put together a whole complete marketing plan around this listing, and she walked in like with 20 pieces of content and email marketing and branding and all this other stuff. And the seller literally fell on the floor. She was like, I'm canceling my next 3 listing appointments because you're hired.
You've already put 20 hours in clearly.
Yeah.
Right? They feel guilty.
Yeah.
At least for a while until they realize what's going on.
So, and there's several others that branch off of that. In fact, that was kind of the birth of Marketing Hero. That's when I was really like, I think I might have something here.
What about you, Eric?
I actually really like that example, and in prepping for meetings, you only got really one chance to make sure that you really stand out, and that one chance doesn't come back 5 seconds later, 10 seconds later, it's done. And so the more you prepared up front, the less you've practiced on your client, the more you've practiced with AI, or the more you've assisted yourself to be fully prepared for each and every interaction. Each and every interaction may be a $10,000 deal, a $20,000, you have no idea. But yet we treat it like they're a dime a dozen. And so really using this to level up, so when you're in front of your client, you have all the access to all the information, you've really done your homework, you prepared for them, and it's personalized for them, is the best. And I love using AI now to really find out who the best prospective buyer likely is for the property. And magically, it happens to be mostly the reason why the seller bought it. So they're in complete alignment with your marketing plan when you've done it this way. And it's the most likely reason why the buyer will actually come to you. And you have all your marketing assets around that message. And you have all your, you see what I mean? So that is just a great use case to really dive deep into the actual data itself with a push button, or a link or whatever. So it just makes you look like a superhero if you really use it this way.
For me, we're seeing our clients they're able to quadruple down on their content. They're doing more content better and more personalized, right? So they're able to quadruple down without having any additional expenses and actually reducing time. So it's been huge for them.
And soon you're going to be able to put your own persona into AI and say, hey, I want to create a video of me saying this right here. You just script it in, and it actually actually it's here now.
Yeah,
you can do that now. Yeah, it's not free.
I wonder if this will work.
But that's kind of what's coming. So you could be the CEO of a company and say, hey, I want to say this to Eric because he just unsubscribed from Marketing Hero, and it'll create the video for you in your voice with your face personalized to him, and he thinks he's watching a video.
His voice thing is trippy. Like, this is what Larry sent me around my voice the other day. If it plays.
Hey everyone, I'm Dayton Parks. First, I want to say thank you so much for coming to the KFA Quarterly Mastermind event. Prepare to have your mind completely blown today.
Dude,
that's weird.
Like, if you're not really listening, that's in 2 weeks it'll be even better.
I played that for his cousin yesterday, and he didn't know it wasn't him.
Oh, really?
I played that for Michael. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, well, it sounded like maybe the microphone was moving in and out or something, but he had no idea.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing a pendulum swing, right? And when a pendulum swings one way, what happens? It swings the other way, right? The table is always turned. So we're seeing this, mass market, like push out stuff, and eventually all the consumers are like, that doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I know it's just an AI-generated video of the CEO. I want an actual call I'd rather have a call from the assistant rather than the AI-generated video from the CEO, right? Some of us are and it's going to swing the pendulum the other way. So just part of the ride, just part of the journey, and let's ride it together.
But you win if you're in the beginning, right? If you're onto it, if you're utilizing this stuff before people catch on, that you're going to win.
Pretty huge.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
You guys find this valuable today? You find this good stuff? Woo! So we can definitely take some more questions, but I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for being here. Your guys' feedback to us is hugely valuable. So please continue to provide the feedback, positive and constructive.
Only positive.
No, we want to hear it all because we're trying to continue to grow and build this thing for you guys. So keep it up, keep bringing it. Special thanks to Rain Church, Glenn Johnson, the whole crew. You guys have been awesome. We're very grateful to be in relationship with you guys. Thank you very much.
Give them a round. Awesome.
They're the best.
And obviously, thank you to all these gentlemen for coming up here. I feel much more intelligent just being around you guys. So thank you.
Before we forget to mention too, classes. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do some more AI classes, you guys, because I think that like the one thing that I've gotten out of this was how much info there is still to give out and share. So I think more AI classes on quick tactical and practical things that you can use every day in your business without going nerd level 10.
Yeah, I mean, we were at Handress Realty the other day, and you probably showed, like, I mean, you went through them fast, but like 20 different platforms, and everyone was like, oh my gosh. And all these different pain points that we have, there's probably something already out there. If not, it's going to be here soon. It's just about discovering it, which is the hard part. But I would highly encourage, show up to some of Larry's classes. He's already, at least a few steps ahead of this stuff and can kind of show you before.
Or if you want me to come out to your brokerage or your team and do a class too, we can schedule that out as well.
Last word on that. I think that's so critical because if you went to the gym without a plan, it's going to be overwhelming. If you went to Costco without a plan, it's pretty overwhelming.
Oh, expensive.
So if you think about AI without a plan, it's pretty overwhelming.
Pretty huge.
So come up with a plan, implement the plan, be thoughtful, be intentional, and this vast world starts to get really small and really defined for you. And it starts to become, this is step one, this is step two, but have a plan. And that does require sometimes having a person help you create the plan, but create the plan first.
Any last questions? I think, Wayne, you got to.
All right, let's wrap up. Give these guys a big round. Thank you guys very much. Good job. You guys are awesome. All right, I just want to wrap up with a couple things. I'm going to write this down if we can. So we write down a couple R's real quick. So here's the 4 R's I want, and there's several things.